Okay, so the fourth law, make it satisfying. This was actually my favorite chapter so far. I like this chapter. The cardinal rule of behavior change. What is rewarded is repeated. What is punished is avoided. Right? So the other thing that I thought was super interesting, the brain's tendency to prioritize the present moment means you can't rely on good intentions. You've got to do what is in the present moment, right? You've got to make a plan to do the things. But as a general rule, the more immediate pleasure you get from an action, the more strongly you should question whether it aligns with your long-term goals. So how do we achieve immediate reward in real estate? With a habit. How do you get an immediate reward?
Well, I started because after I started getting the trainings, originally when I first started, I didn't celebrate until it closed. I got a check.
Right.
Because it was too late, because then you're relying on the end factor. So then once I started learning the whole lead measures versus lag measures, I started more after BOLD, associating when I make the call and I get an answer, even if the answer didn't turn into anything, the just a conversation was my reward. I started seeing that as my yay, because at the same time, the conversations lead to more activity that will turn into business.
So give us do you have an example, Jackie, of a habit that you have that you find some sort of immediate reward? Well, other than ultimately, which is closing an escrow, yeah, right? Because that's the ultimate reward in real estate. But what or gaining a client? I mean, what is the immediate reward?
You know what it came to me was actually having the conversation became the reward.
So the conversation was the reward. The conversation for me is clicking it off my calendar. Is that it for you, Connie? I can't hear you. She's muted. She's muted.
Absolutely. I'm a big, I love to X things out. It's that satisfaction.
Yeah,
that's huge. And it's like when they talked about going to the gym, and the satisfaction is all of a sudden you go to stretch and you're like, wow, I got some abs going on, or, you put on a pair of skirt or something and everything feels better. That's just such a great feeling that makes you want to continue for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's the crossing off for me. I love that.
Me too. It's taking it out of my calendar and going, yeah, I completed that, which I guess ultimately you get enough of that satisfaction, right? Of crossing that off. You're going to get that ultimate reward of that long-term reward of selling a house or gaining a client, because the next step is, oh, I made the call. Okay. You'd make that call enough. That's the habit. And eventually those are going to turn into leads, which are going to turn into escrows.
Escrows, yeah.
Right. And closing.
And for us in this, like it talks about the paperclip strategy, the calendar.
Oh my God,
yeah. Humans psychologically, if you have a visual representation of your progress, that's going to be a motivation to help you continue.
Yeah.
So whether it be like in our business, moving paper clips over from one jar to the next every time you finish a phone call, having something on your calendar like you guys are talking about and marking it off. Those are, if you can set up your schedule or the habit with a visual representation around you where you can visually see your progress, or like it said in here, like set up a bank account and label it with something. So if you're breaking a habit of buying something that's like junk food or shoes, at that moment you have a choice to buy that thing that you're trying to stop buying and take that money and put it to something positive that's going to motivate you. You can tracking that build up is a positive, but tracking the habit is something that we can do immediately. And according to statistics, it motivates you to continue.
Because it's the habit itself is just how many times you do it. It's not, oh, I'm going to do this habit for this long. It's that you're doing it every day, which ultimately is going to pay off, right? Ultimately, it's going to. And what it's interesting what they talked about. As soon as they talked about the paperclip thing, I was like, I'm so excited, because Remember Jared?
The penny.
The penny thing.
Mhm.
So who told us that? It was
Louise.
Louise. So Louise said that put 5 pennies in one pocket. And every time you talk to somebody about real estate, switch it over to the other pocket. By the end of the day, you should have no pennies in whatever pocket you started with. Because, and it's the same thing. It's that getting in the habit of doing it and making a game out of it. And then by the end of it, you've talked to all these people, but it was easy because it was just switching 5 pennies over. The paperclip concept is exactly the same. Not taking it off your calendar is the reverse almost. It's like the lack of something there, but it's still for me, when I go to the end of the day and I'm done all my appointments and I have none of those tasks left, it's the same thing. It's just a little bit of a reverse. It's not there instead of it's there.
Well, and then the checklist throughout the day, right?
Oh,
Like
God.
you've been doing that. That's a huge thing for you. If the night before we learned in the other, the last chapter, preparing for whatever you're trying to do the night before makes it way
Yep,
more
the
likely for
cues,
you
the
to the
cues.
cues. So if you the night before create a to-do list for the following day, that's a cue for the following day. And now we're motivated because we have a checklist that we want to take off and we can track our progress.
Right. So for me, it's putting it in my phone and making it happen every day. I just do a repeat every day. It's a whole, it's the whole day thing, you know, it's a whole day task appointment. And it's repeated every day. So it's on autopilot. I don't have to do that, but I pull up my phone every morning and well, I look at it before I go to bed at night. Right? What do I have to do tomorrow? Okay. And then in the morning I get up and I look at it again. And I see, there it is. Okay, I've got to do this. You know, you can't get away from it. It's there. So, and those habits go even like for trainings, you know, every Wednesday we have a training at 11. Is it going to be something that's always going to be earth shattering? Probably not. But if you get one good idea out of it and it's the habit, long term, you may not need that training right at that moment, but you might learn something that down the road, you're going to benefit from that training, that you can pull it out of your memory and go, oh yeah, we talked about that. Yeah. What do you think, Freddie?
Well, I like everything you're talking about. I've been trying to implement that jar thing.
Yeah,
Moving it over. I think I like that penny thing more because you take it with you.
take it with you.
Yeah.
You can do calls with pennies too. It's either going to be call somebody and talk about real estate or in person, talk to somebody about real estate. But again, it goes back to your sphere of influence. If you are calendared, I mean, if you've got everything in your database and you have a strategic contact plan, it's going to tell you, call these 5 people. It's not even guesswork who to call. We know who to call, right? If you are working that contact plan.
And you know what else is I actually kind of liked was I feel like we all do this, we all have this, is by tracking and doing these things, it eliminates our blindness to our what we're actually achieving in our
Yep.
behavior.
Yep.
When you don't track it, I mean, you can fill a day with a bunch of nonsensical things and you could have tried all day with life, but until you actually see the tracking of what you've actually done that day, it's right in your face. And instead of at the end of the day saying, yeah, I'm making progress, I did good, you can actually look and be like, holy shit, man, I didn't do nearly what I thought I did. You know?
Right.
Yeah.
Because it's more about, I mean, we can putz around all day and it may not be effective. But if you are calling these people and having these conversations, like you're saying, it's
Well, just like the paperclip thing. If you're saying, hey, today I want to make 20 calls and you put 20 paper clips. Without the paper clips, you're going to sit in there all day and you're going to be making some calls, and really you're not going to have an idea as to
no,
really
like
what
you
you
actually did.
unless you're tracking it. But if you have that visual, not only will you know, shit, man, I was talking for like 4 hours. I thought I did good, but I only had 3 conversations or 4 conversations because nobody else picked up or whatever. You're gonna be looking at that and be like, yeah, I didn't, that's not what I thought I did today. And it also keeps you motivated, like this is saying, to achieve that goal for that day by eliminating those. You're more likely to eliminate that number of calls if you have those paper clips reminding you like, hey, this is how many you have left.
Yeah, it's holding yourself accountable because, I mean, it's great to have an accountability partner, but realistically, does that even stick? That's a habit. People start doing accountability partners and it always seems to fizzle. You know, we don't do it. You gotta almost hold yourself.
You need an
accountable.
accountability partner for your accountability.
Accountability. Yeah, exactly.
That's true.
Exactly.
Like Romy pointed out, yesterday we were conversating, she's like, we never even finished our last book club. I was like, yeah, because we didn't have Sarah leading it. It was like, the only reason why this one got done is you are a good calendar and good at holding to it. You don't deviate from the plan. Whereas others have a tendency to not have a natural accountability to themselves, and you do, and you
There
have
was a
held
book
those.
club before this?
Yeah, we tried to do Think and Grow Rich last year.
Oh, that's a hard one.
Yeah. It was only, well, it kept turning out people weren't reading the book, so we spent the first half hour of our class listening to the book, the chapter that nobody had read, and then we had the discussion.
Yeah, that kind of defeats the purpose.
Yeah.
But in your defense, I think Atomic Habits is such an easy read.
Mhm.
And it is so easy to apply to life, anything, not just real estate, anything. So I think it's easy to stick in. I mean, I sit and read it. Now, I read out loud to myself, which is weird. I mean, I'm saying I'm reading it to Oliver, but I'm really reading it to myself. I absorb it more if I say it. And then I have it on audiobook in my car. And I listen to that, but I don't do as well with audiobooks. I fade in and out. Like I
Scroll.
start, I'm listening to it, and then all of a sudden I'm my brain and I realize, ooh, 5 minutes have gone and I haven't listened to one word this guy said, unless somehow it's going into my subconscious, but I don't think it is. So I think I'm just not paying attention, but I do try and go, oh yeah, because one point I was listening to the audio, I was like, oh, that sounds familiar. Have I done this part yet? I was like, oh yeah, I did. So, you know, you got, but I do like reading out loud, but I love reading this book. It's so easy. I've highlighted stuff. My trainer wants to borrow the book after I'm done. I've told him, yeah, it's great. And I've already highlighted all the important parts for him, so he can have it. Anybody else, any ideas or thoughts about what we just talked about?
So you look at the concept of the paperclip, it's a barometer of how your day went. So if you do have paper clips that are still in the other pocket or jar, whatever, then you have to self-reflect and say, what did I do today that stopped me from fulfilling it?
Yeah,
Am I utilizing my time? Don't beat yourself up. Just remember that, okay, well, I wasted a lot of time over here with a go nowhere lead, let's say. I mean, there's people that want to take your time, right?
Mhm.
You have to learn how to manage your clientele, I guess, in a way, and your friends too, when you're out making contacts. It's like, if it's not a productive conversation, don't just cut them off. Hey, I want to sell you a house. Obviously, you hit on the pleasantries of things that are important for them,
yeah,
and you move forward. And if you have that paperclip that just doesn't produce any fruit, sometimes you got to put it away and not count it in your daily count. You just find something more productive. So if you come halfway through the day and you have time left, you can always, let's say, add another paperclip. So now you have 6, but that's just me, my process. But what it is, it's self-discipline. There's no success without self-discipline for any of us.
what do you do, Mike, though, if you don't make it through the day? Like, what if you only do 2? Do you carry those over to the next day, or do you just say, I'm gonna try and do better the next day, or what do you do?
I would carry them to the next day and I would refine my time for that day to make sure I put those into the other jar.
And maybe that's the punishment, right? 'Cause
Yes,
we talk
it's
about the punishment.
Yeah.
The punishment, you know, there's gotta be an immediate punishment. Well, yeah, this is the immediate punishment. If
Right.
I don't make my 5 calls today, I'm gonna have to make 8 tomorrow. I don't really wanna make 5. Do you think I wanna make 8? No,
No.
I don't. So that's the punishment, the immediate punishment.
Exactly.
What other immediate punishment would there be though for real estate? I can't think of a lot of immediate punishment.
You may miss the opportunity for a lead. Like, real estate is fast.
Yeah,
You know, I mean, historically, 75% of the people that try to call you, if they're not your original clientele, they're going to move on to the next person that answers the telephone. So that's kind of
oh,
a double,
75%.
yeah, it's about 75%. It's kind of a double-edged sword because this thing is a monster. There's a lot of studies that have shown that this can create PTSD and fight and flight. Like, oh shit, I missed a call. What number is that? Oh, you get a voicemail. Hi, this is Stephanie. I was looking at your property for 1.7 on Kenai. I'll call you back later. Then you try to call, right? Now you're trying to call, and they're not answering. You're like, oh no.
Yeah,
So this can create a lot of stress. And where I'm going with that is just try to get all your paper clips into the proper jar, and if you don't, pay the price the next day. But just remember what you did wrong. I can't say wrong. You did differently that day. If you're constantly consistent and you're meeting your goals, just remember what happened that day that made you not meet that goal for that day. Because you're going to punish yourself. You'll probably stay awake. I'm the guy that if I miss a goal for the day, I'm like, F.
Oh, I forgot that was coming. That's supposed to be, I was gonna say that in the very beginning. Wow.
11:20.
Me too.
Oh, go on for 2 minutes.
Oliver.
2 minutes.
Oliver.
Like, oh God, we're gonna be bombed.
Well,
And to wrap that up, I just might say that, okay, so let's have it be a teachable moment to ourselves. We're teaching ourselves not to do what we did or to do what we're doing. That is continuing our success.
Yeah.
It's a teachable moment to yourself.
that's true. That's a good way to look at it. Not, and I also think the ultimate punishment is when you put off calling a client, you never put them in your database. And you go on the MLS and they list it with somebody else, and you just sold them that house 3 years ago. That is the ultimate punishment of what you do, because then you're like, I meant to call them. Yeah, well, you didn't.
Yeah.
And they called somebody else.
Another thing you can do is, for realtors, is at the end of the day, we can hook up electrodes to ourselves.
Chris,
I missed that. What do you say?
yeah, he said we can hook up electrodes to ourselves, Connie, and do some shock.
Oh, my gosh. Well, that just shocked me. So that, yeah.
It's not everybody's thing,
I didn't even get an ice bath.
How about when they talk about if you're willing, yeah, but a nice bath is a punishment, that is so good for you.
Yes, good, it's good for you, but it's not punishments that are gonna hit you.
Well, I know,
And do more harm than good.
yeah. So if you're willing to wait for the rewards, you'll face less competition and often get a bigger payoff. You know what my mind went to is the agent who sends out mailers to 1,000 people one time, right? One time they do it. They do not get immediate results. They never do it again. What about the ones that send out every month to 100 people and they start getting results? That talks about you'll face less competition to get a bigger reward because you hung in there with the habit. It was a smaller group, it was a doable habit, it was manageable. Thinking you're gonna send 1,000 mailers out every month. I guess some people probably do when they have that kind of an advertising budget, but the majority of us do not. And then it gets back to being consistent, it gets back to the whole 1% increase. You're making it easy, not that painful. Exactly.
You're establishing a great brand presence, whether they know it or not, subconsciously they're recording that, they might go up the trash, but they're looking, they see, let's say Sarah's face, and then suddenly they have to sell a house, they're like, I know somebody that does Sarah. It's weird, the human mind, it catalogs that junk, all those flyers.
Yeah, you may not think it does,
Yeah.
but it does. It does. What do you think, Connie? What stands out to you for this chapter?
I probably the biggest thing is missing once is an accident, missing twice is starting a new habit.
Oh, yeah.
And when I read that, I was like, holy smokes, because at the end of the day, if I noticed I didn't get something done, it was that one thing that I really didn't want to do. Like I'd rather eat a dead rat than make that call. But I know that sounds horrible, but it really, that really stuck out for me because I can easily fall into a bad habit like anybody without even realizing it.
Because we can either fall into a good habit or a bad habit.
Yeah.
So it comes into that, don't break the chain. Is
The
a power
chain.
mantra. Don't break the chain. Even if, some days, I mean, I go to my trainer, not every day, I work out every day, but I go to my trainer like 3 times a week. Some of my workouts aren't great. I mean, there's days, well, I'm not all there, like, or maybe I don't feel so good, or I haven't slept well. But the important thing is, and he told me this, Tyler goes, yeah, he goes, you know what, you showed up. He
Yep.
said, that's the first step, you showed up, you didn't stay home, you showed up, and that's how I guess we should go at it, it's You show up, don't break the chain, go. May
Not be perfect,
May
but
not
do
be
it.
your perfect day, but maybe your next day is the perfect day of making calls. Maybe on Monday, it's not the best day, it's not, you got through it, but maybe you fumbled or you said something, oh man, why'd I say that? Doesn't matter, you just regroup and go forward. More people like real anyway, they like real and genuine. When I post videos, I get a lot more on the ones where, because I told you guys, I do a video, I film it once, I never listen to it, I know if I completely flub it up, but I mean, as long as it's okay, I might stumble a little bit, I post it and I never look at it again. Because we don't wanna be perfect, we wanna be relatable. Relatable.
Yeah, I thought of something.
Without, Christopher,
Like, I'm just gonna go ahead and just split this out. I was also like in regards to like the accountability partner, I was thinking. Like, obviously, like from day one. If you hear anything about like training or in real estate world. I think accountability partner is a pretty common thing here, right? And. Like you were saying, it's very easy for that to kind of fizzle out. But I'll tell you right now, just knowing this class is happening every Wednesday makes it 100 times more likely that I read. Cause I'm not, I want to be a big reader, but like knowing that this is happening. Is gonna make it way more likely that I read that chapter, because I know that this day's coming, right? And even right now, I didn't read because I had a bunch of other stuff going. The last 45 minutes, I went out there and busted out a bunch of stuff, but normally I do read. And I was thinking, how can we apply that to different things here? And this thought was popping in my mind. But if we had a like once a week, like if we did, so the other thing I talked about was a habit contract. And it being when it's public, it can be painful.
you
So-
like if it was displayed,
So like if we all had a contract
right?
here at the brokerage with something, social media, for example.
Yeah.
A social media content contract.
That's Connie's favorite,
What was that?
social media, that's your favorite.
Oh, geez, Louise, terrifies me. But I will look at.
How much more likely, knowing that every week or every other week or whatever happens, we're gonna have a meeting where Jackie or somebody were to pull. In our contract, we're all gonna know, we all knew what our goals were for the social media, just as an example.
And we all had individual goals.
And we all had individual goals, and it was like on a chart somewhere, we whip it out on that little easel that we have, or something like that, and then every week. We come on there and we know that somebody's gonna look at our, so it's public, so it's social media, and we're gonna. Chris is gonna say, all right, Chris, your contract that you signed said that you were gonna post. Once every other day. Let's see what you did, that is, you need to have 4 a week. Let's see what you actually did, we're gonna click on Chris's profile, and you posted twice. So you failed the contract, you missed it, you did not fulfill the contract by 2 of them. I'm saying like,
You have to put $1 in the bin and then we're gonna go to lunch on the.
There you go. Yeah.
I don't know, like, that would be like the equivalent to knowing that this book is gonna be read, right? So like, I think about that, and I don't know, you can go a bunch of different ways with that and with different things, not just like social media or whatever, but I'm looking at a way that could, an accountability and you also using the habit contract or like the public thing would be, implemented on at the real estate.
So the immediate pain would be humiliation in front of your peers.
Yeah,
Well, I will tell you that, remember when we did Bold, Connie, do you remember when we did Bold at Keller
Oh,
Williams?
yeah.
That was
Mhm.
like my worst nightmare ever.
Oh,
I was horrible,
Worst.
so I lied. They make all these calls and I was like. I called my mom,
oh, it's yeah.
asked you, how many did you get? Oh, yeah, it was an absolute lie. I am ashamed to say that, but it was a blatant lie, that with social media, it is honestly trackable, because we can see what you do.
Yep.
Just go on your page, we can see exactly what you do. So it is something that is honest, but if
Well,
I go to Bold, you can do it.
and I'm just like thinking, I'm just like, and I don't know if this applies to everybody, but I'm just thinking about myself and how this is affecting me, knowing that this class happens, how much more likely I am to actually read this book. And I'm just thinking to myself, man, if I sat down in a class with my peers and I made a commitment and I signed a contract, of doing something that I really wanna do anyways. How much more likely, am I gonna be more likely or less likely or no change in doing that task? If I know that every week on Wednesday or Thursday or Friday or whatever that day is coming up. Would I be more likely to achieve that? Can't say that I wouldn't be. It's gotta, I mean, I'm not, it's gonna push me, it's gonna motivate me, it's gonna drive me to make sure that on that day, I'm gonna be thinking about it, like, shit, man, on that day.
Yeah,
And I'm gonna have these little moments throughout the day where I'm like, oh yeah, I need to do that. And then I don't. Then I'm probably gonna be like, I need to do that. And I'm gonna be humiliated if I don't. Okay, so yeah, I'm gonna do that.
well, I have to do it because I'm kind of hosting, so if I haven't read it, that's gonna be bad.
That would be bad.
Like, I just know there's 3 chapters. I do one on Sunday night, one on Monday, one on Tuesday. That's how I do it. And then I just know it's, and of course, it's calendar, right? It's right there. This I thought was interesting too. Lost days hurt you more than successful days help you.
Yep.
So, yeah, never miss twice. I mean, I love this book because it's so readable and so relatable, and I think it's just, it's so good. And it's so practical. It's so
Mhm.
practical.
But it makes sense too, because you don't ever read something and be like, okay, I don't have to ever go back, because I'm a horrible reader. I'm the one that reads, now but what the hell did I just read? I haven't done that once with this book.
You don't have to go back and reread.
I don't go back and be like, what, that doesn't make sense, or, okay, I have to read it again for it to make sense to me, I have not had to do that.
Mhm. What do you think, Jared?
So many relatable things in here. I was talking to another agent a while back where what they would do. I'm gonna bounce off the walls here, sorry. They would do for lead generating, they would get a clothesline and put paper clips and $5 or something. Everybody puts in $5 at the beginning, you make your calls and there's accountability. Whoever made the most appointments got all the money. And I don't think by design, before we read the book. That it was your intention to babysit us or anything, productivity Wednesdays, I still do them, I made a little blurb about them, it's a good thing for you to kind of, hey guys, here's a, let's get productivity, and then you take that over and you start doing it every week. And it pays off, I do it in the quietness in my room, on my desk,
Because the rewards,
yeah.
it's the reward. I mean, it's not making me happy that we do a productive plan. I mean, it does, but that's not why we do it, for productivity.
And it taught me, I got my little bell at home, it taught me to be consistent, at making appointments and making phone calls.
And to have your own little party and congratulate yourself.
Yeah, and then I know. You mentioned about the conversations, the snap, I'm making my calls and, sometimes I get the vibe where I'm calling like a friend, I don't want it to be, the whole purpose is obviously, just thinking. So it's just, we don't even talk about real estate. Hey, how's all the kids doing? It's been so long since we.
Care
been
call,
kind of talk.
care call.
Yep, the next time I'm in Hampton, man, let's grab lunch, dude. I just, just see the Niner game, it's a Niner fan, we just make it relatable. And then I'm hoping, he goes to work, but hey, you know what? I think we're gonna sell our house. Dude, Jared, he's a real estate agent,
Yeah.
Let me call him up.
Yeah.
So just a little 5 paper clips, 5 phone calls, you gauge the conversation about marrying.
Well, honestly, care calls are the best way to go, because they're the easiest to do. And they're not like, hey, I'm here to sell you a house, but most people are not gonna call you and say, I'm getting a divorce. They won't, but if you happen to call, how's everything going, just checking in, haven't talked to you a while, they might steal it.
Oh, remember when we were doing that productivity?
We were doing productivity, I swear to God, Chris got 3 people who had cancer. And one died, one had cancer, one was something else. He got leads out of all of them, but it was a care call. That's all Chris did. He picked up the phone, he goes, hey, Chris Webb here, haven't talked to you for a long time. How are things going? And they just
Well, my grandma died, so we're dealing with that right now, and we've got some properties, so one of them was, and he had his.
So those care calls are the best habit you guys can do as real estate agent. Those are the best.
I'm gonna generate something for myself and who knows where the idea will go. It's off of Chris, what he just said about 2 minutes ago. About the accountability, how gauge what it is, social media posts twice a week or something, open houses twice a month, and then there'll be some kind of monetary thing in a fishbowl or something came to mind, right? And we do something with it, but never underestimate the power of a video. Sarah does it, doesn't even look at it, I hate it, I could tell you so many imperfections about I'll take that, whatever, right?
Your
But
hair.
I'm over it, my hair, right? But I ran into a girl at Target and I have not seen her forever. And I go, hey, how's it going? Oh, great, you know? And she worked with the Department of Corrections, whatever. I go, hey, I see you're getting close to retirement. Good for you. Yeah, I see you're in real estate. I'm taking that penny, moved over, didn't make a phone call. That counts. Mission accomplished. So at
Absolutely,
least she knows and thinks of me.
because like they were talking about with social media. And social media, I mean, I do it. Do I think, oh, this is the most fun I've ever had in the world? No, but I do it because I know we need it. What we learned at CAR was people are so visual. They are visual, they want to see it, they want to see it. That's why also when you're doing your social media, you should put your captions, because Jackie even brought this up, she watches things on mute. When Jackie's supposed to be working, she's watching TikToks on mute.
And I checked out mentally already, I'm there out of respect, but I'm already checked out, I am scrolling.
Jackie,
Oh, I don't do it this year.
work hours, but seriously, there's a good percentage of people that watch videos, Instagram, everything on mute, so you've gotta have your captions. That I calendar, again, no, it's broken record, but I calendar my social media, I know I'm gonna do one video, one reel. Fun Fact Friday with Oliver, one deal of the week, I know, I have exactly what I'm gonna do, and I put it in my phone, and all week long to do it, and as I do it. Get rid of it, for the week. Maybe do it. Anything else? Anybody else? Any?
But you couldn't really reward it though.
Well, it's at whatever's important to you. You know, I mean, if it's,
How do you reward yourself?
I'm just happy when I click it off my list. I don't do anything for myself. Like monetarily, or I'm gonna eat this, or I'm gonna go here. It's just-
Like our nominee is, don't have this.
No, it's just whatever works for you. For me, it's just the fact that I have a clear calendar and I sleep well, because I don't have anything to worry about that night.
Yeah, I would identify something that does really legitimately motivate you or make you happy, yeah, and then, whatever that is,
What do you usually?
not that I know what I'm gonna do. Is, I think I like the account thing, tracking and like having a savings account for something like a trip or for something, and then using that, so anytime I do good, I mean, kind of add that and watch that add up, and eventually I achieve my goal, and
Now, what if you put $5 in every time you put $1 phone call? And you did that, because guess what? It seems like, oh, I'm having to put money up, but you're gonna get that money back, 'cause it's gonna turn into a deal. It's gonna come back to you 100-fold. What if you did that every time you, or an open house, same thing, I'm gonna put $5 in the jar.
We have to worry to share about rewards. I think of just being Jack in here. I'm like, man, I never saw like a lot of real estate. I'm ready to take my kids to Disneyland or something. And then I was up getting gas at the lake, horrible reception, right? You know, and I got a seat lead call. And it turned out to my biggest deal ever. It's something that Sarah pays for us. And you know, that's for clothes and when you take the kids to Disneyland, and I did. So it was kind of, I was really happy, you know, I was happy to reward my family with a Disneyland trip, you know.
well, I think the book they're talking about, like, to reward yourself with every time you go to the gym,
Mm-hmm.
give yourself a massage.
Yeah.
Not give yourself a massage, but like, get a massage.
Treat yourself.
Like if your goal is to go to the gym 3 times a week, you make it 3 times a week, then at the end of the week, you get, you know, go get a massage. And if you don't get that. Or they also, the other thing was the leisure walk in the park. Bubble bath, you look like a bubble bath type of person.
But that's okay if you are, Freddie, we're not judging. Yeah.
I'm a visual person, they have to get. I'm a visual person, so to me, it's like when I see something, it makes it happen. So like the things that we can't see, I've been trying to implore more of the checking off aspect of like the tracker, because it's helping me see it. Cause it's actually going to my visual aspect. So when it talk about, you know, those that actually measure their, like, log their diary or their food entry, have more results. Well, my Fitness Pal, I just put it into one of my default widgets, so I can log it. But after you like done something, you get a badge that says, you could log your meals all week, you have now gotten a little
You
bit.
also can be a partner on that. You can be accountability partners on My Fitness Pal.
Ooh, I need some.
I do it.
How about
I
I do that?
Yeah, and then you can see what I eat, and you can, and I'll see what you eat, and that way you have somebody looking at it.
I
Well,
That. Well,
the biggest right now, I'm not carrying, it's not that I don't care what I eat, I'm caring more about that and logging.
Yeah.
Cause then it's making
That's
me
the
more
habit,
about,
yes.
that's the habit I
Yes.
focus on.
that's
Cause
it.
then it's gonna make me choose whether, it's like, like,
see, and she'd rather to, yeah.
it was 300 calories and half beans. There's something so much better you can have than beans for 300 calories, so it's like, okay. Well, now when you can only have 1,300 calories for the
And
day.
you can also go in on macros, it'll show you how much protein you had for the day, I mean, there's all ways on that, My
Yeah.
Fitness Pal is really good. I think a good one for me, now that Nordstrom Rack is open and by selling, is like, if I make all my calls for a week and I do all the things I'm supposed to do, then I can treat myself by a trip to Nordstrom Rack. If you're like, I'm not going there until I do what I need to do for real estate, that's a good one for me, cause I wanna go there. Probably like once a week, but I'm not going once a week, but if I do it for a month.
Well, it talks about like your reward needs to be in line with what your goal is. Like, if your goal is to eat healthy X amount of times or whatever, your reward shouldn't be eating a whole ice.
Right, yeah,
So it just depends on what your goals are, so you kind of need to analyze it specifically for you, for each of us. And you take your goals and then you figure out, okay, what reward can I have that's not gonna disrupt this or counter this, and.
Sarah, I think one of my rewards, I just thought of this, is probably time is my biggest reward. I try to have everything done by 2:00. That's my goal. And if I have it done by 2, then that's kind of, unless I have showings or something, then that's, to me, that's a goal. I like to show up every day and have a 2:00 deadline, and then I get to go to Nordstrom's Rack or, do something fun. So that motivates me a lot, is just time, just having.
and managing your time so that you're done
Yeah,
by.
so I have time.
And
Yeah.
to do whatever you wanna do.
But 2:00 is my deadline.
That's a good one.
Mhm.
Romy, do you have anything you wanna say? I see half your face. No?
I'm just listening.
Okay.
I'm taking it in.
All right, so next week, it's advanced tactics. How to go from being merely good to being truly great. Let's read through it, let's really come up with some direct ideas how it applies to real estate, like how we really can implement this. I know we've done it, but let's each come up with a couple of ideas, how it's really affected us. Half of the training is gonna be that, the second half is going to be effectively using our events or to make contact with your clients, okay? Because November 11th is our Veterans Day celebration, we're doing that big thing. And then we have our foot drive in December. I'm gonna go over what you guys need to be doing. I don't do it for me, guys, I do it for you, I do it for you guys. And what we need to do to really make the most of those events in reaching out and having touches with our clients. So we're gonna do half of the hour with Atomic Habits and then the other half with that.
Rock and roll.
Okay, rock and roll.
Good stuff.
Thank you much.
Bye.
All right, guys.